Hi everyone, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm so excited to bring you guys a review of James Wan's latest horror film, Malignant. Paralyzed by fear from shocking visions, a woman's torment worsens as she discovers her waking dreams are terrifying realities. The second I saw this movie, I was like, I'm most definitely going to be talking about it on my channel. To people that aren't subscribed or don't really know much about me, I love horror and James Wan. He's probably, in my opinion, one of the best horror filmmakers working today, and the Conjuring movies are some of my favorites. I love Insidious. Saw is also a really great one, and probably my least favorite of his is Aquaman from the ones that I've seen because I don't really vibe with that movie, but still, the directing game is strong in that one. So when Malignant came around and I saw the trailers and I just even knew about this project, I was so invested from the start, and I'm so happy to say that this movie is not anything at all what I expected it to be. Watching the trailers and watching the movie is something completely different, and people going into this movie expecting what the trailer kind of gives them might disappoint them, but honestly I'm kind of glad the trailers literally gave nothing away, because the trailers make it look super bland, super I guess super Conjuring vibes, and it's totally not that. So just telling you guys, if you haven't seen the movie at this point, don't expect what the trailers give you. Expect something greater than that, honestly, at least in my opinion. And this review, I'm going to try to keep it spoiler free, but I really don't have many notes for this. I just have random thoughts that I have, and I'm going to try to keep this as organized as possible, but it's been a couple days since I've seen it, and my brain is everywhere. I randomly get thoughts into my head of this movie, and it's one of those movies that I think there's just so much to talk about. One single video won't do it justice. So I'm gonna just try my very best to not talk about spoilers, but if and when I do talk about spoilers, I will for sure put a spoiler warning. And I just want to let you guys know that this movie is streaming on HBO Max for 31 days, and it's also available in theaters, so whichever one fits your boat. And yeah, enough of me rambling, even though I'm probably gonna do that this entire video. Let's talk about Malignant. So I first need to talk about James Wan, because my god, is he literally one of the best directors I've ever seen. This is probably my favorite movie of his from a directorial standpoint, because I just love the shots in this movie so much. They're extremely creative, but they're not creative in a way that it's just out there to be artsy, to be cool. It genuinely fits the uneasiness, the confusing story that James Wan has in store for us with Malignant. And I also really like how he uses space a lot in this movie, and he uses the camera as a way to guide us through places that gives us information whether we realize it at the moment or not. And I think that's something that's really important when someone's directing a movie. What do the shots do? What does it do for the story? And I think the shots do a lot of good stuff for this movie. One of my favorite shots, it's an overhead, almost like a bird's eye angle, and it's just so cool. It looks awesome. And towards the third act, the cinematography and the directing make it look almost like a video game, and it could be a little bit CGI heavy. You can kind of tell that stuff happening was not done with practical effects, and personally it didn't take away much from the experience because it just looked so cool, and it straight up looked like something I could play in a video game. And one of my friends actually pointed out that there's a scene, which I won't spoil what scene it is, but there's a scene towards the end that looks like something that would definitely be in a video game. So honestly, I totally see Malignant being a super cool video game in my opinion, because a lot of the shots and a lot of the stylistic choices really reminded me of that. And the writing in this movie is really great, because I think it's a movie that stands alone on its first watch, but it'll only get enhanced on a second watch, on a third watch, because I think this movie will be very, very rewatchable. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I am dying to rewatch it on HBO Max with my mom, because I went to see it at the movie theater with my friends, and I'm literally gonna rewatch this as soon as possible, because it's just, there's gonna be so much more for me to pick up on. Malignant was written by James Wan, Ingrid Bisu, and Akela Cooper, and they all did a really great job, because the story, when you first watch it, you kind of are given so much information, and it could kind of feel like a lot of exposition at some point, because there's a lot of character information, and it kind of feels like it's all coming at once. You're kind of like, okay dude, I literally just met you, you're throwing a little too much at me. And then there's a lot of stuff happening just plot wise at the same time, but none of it really connects with each other, and then the movie kind of ties everything together in a perfect bow at the end, and few movies do that. I will talk about some negatives that come with that, but for the most part, almost everything that they mentioned makes sense, to the point where I'm gonna kind of spoil really quickly, so skip to this part if you don't want to be spoiled. But towards the end of the movie, I was like, okay, cool, I get everything, but why mention the miscarriage? Like, why is the miscarriage so important? Because it definitely made me sad for this character, but I didn't think it like added too much to the plot. And then cleverly they talk about how Gabriel was sucking the life out of these babies, and that's why he was able to like literally take full form and control back. I was just so happy they explained that, because that was gonna be literally something I was gonna mention in this video, like, oh, it was kind of irrelevant to mention her miscarriage. And then James Wan is like, no, I have you figured out. I have everything figured out, and that's awesome. Like, it's just awesome when movies have themselves figured out, and this movie definitely has a lot going on, a lot of layers, and there are certain moments where there could be a little bit of plot holes. I feel like the idea, which I'll talk about in just a few moments, the idea is so crazy that, you know, there's a lot of questions to be asked, but then again, I kind of just don't care, because I liked it so much that, like, I guess my critiques and the little plot holes, the little questions I have, don't really take away much from how great this movie truly is. And speaking of how crazy this story is, one word I'm gonna use to describe this movie is camp. This movie, honestly, in my opinion, would have been such a hit in the 80s. I've been watching a lot of 80s horror movie recently, and a lot of it is very campy. It's very out of this world. It's very like, what the heck is even going on? Like, why is this a thing? But it kind of works, and this movie totally works in that way. Like, I honestly can't believe this movie was made in 2021, because I feel like the idea is so ridiculous. People could literally laugh at it, but James Wan does it in a way where it totally works for the story that he's setting up. Like, it might feel like it comes out of nowhere, but for some reason, it just perfectly makes sense. And it's just because James Wan made sure that in the first and the second act, everything was set up so that when you finally get the answers, it's like, oh crap, like, it all makes sense. And it totally makes sense for the universe that was set up. Like, even in the beginning, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be some crazy weird stuff, and like, it just totally makes sense. There are some line deliveries that aren't the greatest, but I think some of it was literally done on purpose to, again, like, just add that 80s horror camp flair. And personally, sometimes campy horror really doesn't work for me, but I think in this case it works because it's able to kind of combine something that was super popular back in the day but make it modern at the same time. I also want to talk about the performances, because Annabelle Wallis actually did a really great job, and her character kind of goes through a lot. This story literally depends on her character, and that's the case for most movies, but if her character wouldn't have worked, if her performance wouldn't have worked, a lot of it would have flopped, and she did an excellent job. And I also liked Maddie Hassan in the movie. I hadn't really seen her in anything before, but I really liked her and her chemistry with Annabelle Wallis in the movie. I thought they were both really great, and they both played their part super well. I also really like George Young in the movie. Just a little critique I have with this character, I wish I knew what happened to him at the end, because, you know, Gabriel kind of killed him, or like maybe didn't kill him. I wish we kind of got closure on that, because I kind of liked his character and I wanted to know what happened to him, and the movie kind of just didn't answer that. So I guess that's like one little negative I have with the movie. Also, the editing in this movie was literally fantastic, especially when choosing what scenes to show and when to cut, when not to cut. Like, it was near perfect, honestly. One of my favorite moments in the entire movie is when the lady that's being held hostage by Gabriel, who at the time we don't really know who she is, falls down the attic, and she's literally in Madison's house. I screamed. I was at the movie theater with my friend, and there was like one other person at the movie theater. I wish I had seen this movie with a full jam-packed theater. I would literally love to relive that moment and see people's reaction, and I just have to give it to the editing and just the story. Like, just and it all just goes back to James Wan really knew when to give us information and when to withhold information. That's like one of the most important things in a movie ever. So many times movies love to give characters the chance to just give everything out at once, and this movie restrained itself. At times it might have been even a bit risky to kind of just restrict so much information and then throw it at random moments, but it just worked so well. And also, I need to talk about the incredible score, because there was so much good going on here. Joseph Bishara is so talented. It's so unnerving, but then there are moments where the music is like kind of really upbeat and just a vibe. Like, the word I'm going to use to describe the score a vibe. And I also just love the like mix of songs. Like there's a song from the Pixies in here integrated into the score. It works so well. One of the best scores of the year, hands down. I really do hope this movie gets some recognition in award season, because there are so many great elements incorporated into this movie that just deserve to be recognized. I just looked at the tagline for the movie and it's a new vision of terror, and that's the perfect way to describe this movie. It takes everything that I love from horror movies and makes it just 10 times better. Horror is my favorite genre because it can be the most creative genre in the entire world, and this movie proved that. This movie is so unique. I can't think of many things like this, because sure, it takes elements from other things that do exist, but it totally makes it its own. And in the year 2021, where movies just feel like they're recycling old things over and over again, this movie is like a breath of fresh air, especially for the horror genre. And I know it's gonna be a divisive one. It already is. People either love it or don't like it, but James Wan just had a whole lot of fun with this movie, and you can definitely tell that he had a lot of fun crafting the story, and he also has a true love for the genre of horror, and that's why I'm going to give Malignant an A. Let me know what you guys thought about Malignant down below. There's so much to talk about, and I know I did go into some spoilers, so I'm going to definitely put like a spoiler warning when I edit this so you guys don't get spoiled. But down in the comments, if you do talk about Malignant and you do want to talk spoilers, you definitely can. Just make sure to put a warning, because the movie's pretty new and I don't want people to get it ruined, because that would totally suck. This is one of those movies where like it's gonna be so awesome when you first watch it and you don't know what's going on, because it's crazy. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's review. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and if you do love horror, then you're gonna want to subscribe to my channel, because starting pretty soon, October 1st, I'm going to be posting daily horror movie reviews, and I'm so excited for you guys to see what I have in store. And remember, you guys are all super awesome. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys!